As NFL teams continue to squabble over who will reign supreme next year, a new dog has entered the fight. The XFL is all the buzz right now as ratings continue to impress in a pleasantly fresh football experience. We have it all right here on Beyond the Blitz. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Blitz Crew back at it as always. Brandon Wells, Justin Rogers. Special guest today, we have Bridgewater College cornerback star Joe Caron. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great today. Thankful to be here. Excited to talk football with you guys. Obviously it's something I could talk for hours about. Every team, every player. So I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. I'm happy to have you on.
Yes, sir.
First time, as always, we got to give our guests a little bit of warm-up segment. So we're going to go into our headliners real quick. We got 10 quick questions for you, and you're going to give us your take on them.
Okay.
Number one, New Orleans quarterback Drew Brees has announced that he will return for the 2020 season for last hoorah at a championship. He will become the 5th quarterback to play in 20 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that puts him in some pretty good company. It's Tom Brady's on that list. Brett Favre as well.
You have some other guys like Vinny Testaverde.
Yeah,
some
Vinny
guys
Testaverde.
who, towards the end of their career, were backups mostly.
Yeah, so, a couple journeymen in there, but still, that's an amazing accomplishment to play quarterback, especially at the level that he's played for 20 seasons. He's been in the Pro Bowl, most of the past 10 seasons or so. He's thrown for 5,000 yards, I believe, several seasons, which is absolutely mind-boggling. And has he already announced that he's coming back to the Saints, or?
Yes, he'll be with the Saints.
Okay. So, yeah, he is just a very cherished person to the city of New Orleans.
That also raises the question, where's Hill and Bridgewater going to go? Because New Orleans already said they're not going to keep all 3 quarterbacks.
Right, but Taysom Hill did say he wants to play with Brees. He's looking forward to it.
Taysom Hill has also said he's willing to go somewhere else if it means playing.
There's a lot in the air for this offseason.
Yes.
Do we think Taysom could be a straight up quarterback on another team, or would he be a all-purpose athlete player?
He's too unproven at this point to say. He has less passing stats than receiver Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah.
So, moving on, Greg Olsen has finally found a home as he has signed a 1-year, $7 million contract with the Seattle Seahawks. And what a 1-2 punch tight end tandem this team is about to have.
Yeah, with Disley. Well, I think that's a really savvy move by Pete Carroll. For a tight end of Greg Olsen's caliber, to sign him to a 1-year, $7 million deal, I feel like that's the least amount of money that you could have given away to Greg. Not that he got skimped or anything, but that's a really veteran move by Pete Carroll picking him up.
Seattle's going to be dangerous next year. Look out for that offense. Joe Burrow, as the draft gets closer and closer, rumors begin to escalate. He may possibly dodge the Bengals on draft day. That would be the first time this has happened in quite a while. What do you think about this?
I saw earlier he was born in Athens, Ohio. So he probably still has some family there. So I think it is a little surprising that he would want to dodge the Bengals. There's definitely worse places you could be. If he goes to Cincinnati, he's got Mixon there. I don't know if Tyler Eifert's going to stay or not, but
you also have A.J. Green up in the air right now, too.
Yeah, A.J. Green is a toss-up.
And I think it's just a new regime right now. They had new coach Zach Taylor there last year, and Marvin Lewis is gone, and pretty much everything that he established is pretty much gone because they're going to try to trade Andy Dalton, too. So, it's just up in the air whether he thinks this is a franchise that could succeed for the next 10 years.
Yeah. If I were Joe Burrow, I think I would see that as a good opportunity to kind of take this program that's on the rise, and if they did well in the next couple of years or made the playoffs, it'd be oh yeah, that was because they brought Joe Burrow in. So
yeah. Arizona Cardinals have re-signed offensive tackle DJ Humphries to a 3-year deal worth $45 million.
Obviously they value him. I think they have a lot of faith in their system, what they're doing with Kyler Murray right now. DJ Humphries protecting his blind side. So, I think definitely, if Kyler's your franchise guy, you're going to spend a lot of money on him to protect that blind side.
The Cardinals could be 2 short years away from being contenders.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I don't know. David Johnson, he was an MVP contender a couple seasons ago.
They also now have Kenyon Drake, who lit it up when he was with Arizona.
Kenyon Drake had a very good season.
And he's a free agent. this offseason.
I think Arizona would be stupid not to re-sign him.
Yeah.
They brought him in for a reason. It wasn't to make a playoff
They
push.
got some good young defensive players, Buda Baker, safety, and so, you know.
Josh Norman has officially been released by the Washington Redskins. This leaves the question, where could the veteran defensive back go?
That is a good question. I don't know. I think he might be past like the prime of his career.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's hard to say that because he had a really good season with Carolina like 2 years ago. He was in talks for defensive player of the year, I think. But I mean, I'm not sure. I think, you know, some team that's thin at corner will probably thinking about picking him up, like, I don't know, like the Raiders or some team like the AFC West or something like that.
Don't forget, this kid was benched last season.
But the thing is, you got to think about it. He thrived under Ron Rivera, so why didn't
That's
Ron
true.
Rivera give him a chance for at least another season?
Ron Rivera
is
also
true.
got rid of him. He's done it now twice. So he obviously doesn't like something about Josh Norman.
Yeah.
Chargers head coach Anthony Lynn has said that Tyrod Taylor could possibly be the QB for the Chargers next season. But what do you think they might actually do? Are they going to go this route?
All right, so Phillip Rivers is out of there.
Yep.
Right, he's out. I just don't see Tyrod Taylor thriving in the offensive that they have. Like, the offensive that they've run the past couple of years and under Anthony Lynn, it's like, you know, with Phillip Rivers, spread it out, go empty, throw the ball all over the field, like, you know, have screens to Melvin Gordon and stuff. And then, I mean, I don't know, Tyrod Taylor, I don't know if he's really built for that system. So I think they're going to go with someone who's more of like a pocket passer, someone who can fling the ball all over the field.
There are more talented quarterbacks in the NFL or coming into the NFL right now than there ever has been. I think the Chargers need to outsource.
Definitely.
I think it's a good idea to have Tyrod Taylor as that bridge quarterback. He's probably one of the better bridge quarterbacks you could have.
Definitely. The Bills had him as a bridge quarterback. He did a decent job.
And the Browns also had him as a bridge quarterback.
Yeah.
So third team, he could be a bridge quarterback.
Definitely.
You know who else is a good bridge quarterback? Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh,
wow. Yay.
No pun intended.
The Washington Redskins have announced that they have picked up the team option for running back Adrian Peterson. How much will he contribute to the team in the 2020 season? A reminder, he is 5th on the all-time rushing yards list and only needs just over 1,000 yards to pass all-time great Barry Sanders.
Well, I've grown up being an Adrian Peterson fan, so I would love to see him get to 4 on the all-time rushing list. I love to see him succeed. However, Darius Geis is coming back from a couple injury-riddled years, and I think he's going to get a lot of carries. I mean, he's a really talented guy, and they're going to give him a lot of carries just to get him back into the system. So, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe like a 500, 400-yard season for AP.
That's,
to be honest,
kind of generous, honestly, because they still have Chris Thompson.
Yeah.
With healthy, again, great running back.
And second-year running back Bryce Love, who is fantastic in
Oh,
college.
absolutely. So,
One of them has to be trade bait.
Yeah.
Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin has publicly responded to Myles Garrett bringing up the Mason Rudolph race in comment. What do you think about all this?
So, I mean, both Myles Garrett and Mason Rudolph are very firm on what they believe went down. Myles Garrett, he's said on several occasions that Mason Rudolph called him the N-word. Mason Rudolph vehemently denied it. But I mean, if you're in Mike Tomlin's position, you're going to give your own currently starting quarterback the benefit of the doubt. I think he basically just said, he basically told Mason it's within all of your rights to just sue Myles Garrett and protect yourself. So
there was no mics on the field. There's no way they can prove whatever happened either situation.
Yeah.
This is just going to die off. Nothing's going to happen. People are going to live their own lives, yada, yada, yada. Maybe another fight next season. We'll see. Jason Witten says he wants to play in 2020, even if it's for another team. Can you actually see Witten in not a Cowboys uniform? And if so, where?
it's very difficult. I believe he's played his whole career with the Cowboys.
And ESPN broadcasting.
Yeah, I would much rather listen to Tony Romo on that. If I had to guess any team Jason Witten's going to end up on, this is going to sound really weird, but I was thinking Eagles earlier. I don't know, something about his attitude and just the bald head. I just feel like he'd fit in Philly.
Witten and Ertz would be
And Goddard.
dangerous.
That would be disgusting.
There's no way. That'd be insane.
Yeah.
The onside kick king Young Ho Koo is coming back to Atlanta on a 1-year deal. What do you think about this pick?
I mean, I think he's a really talented young guy. I just saw that video where he rainbows the ball over his head and then kicks it through the goalpost and then does a backflip. I'm not sure if that'll translate to the field, but obviously he's showing a lot of potential. I think with the playing time he did get, he had a pretty high kicking percentage. So
When he was with the Chargers, he struggled. He struggled a lot in the kicking game, but he looked a lot better last season in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So we'll see where he goes
A
moving
lot of
forward.
improvement. Yeah.
So as Brandon mentioned in the intro, we are going to talk about the XFL. Let's take a break a little bit from the NFL and go towards this new league we have with 8 teams coming in. So again, the XFL starting 2 weeks ago, just a couple of stats here. So the week 1 ratings. So it's an average of 3.1 million viewers, with the first game having 3.3 million viewers. And then going into the second week had an average that dipped down a little bit, 2.2 million viewers, with his first game having 3.4 million viewers, which was more than 2 million of last year's AAF league. What do you guys think right now about this league?
I remember when the AAF was going on last season, it was kind of a hot buzz for a little bit. There was a lot of fun play, a lot of good things that came out of it, and then it just stopped to get interesting pretty quickly, and the ratings just pretty much dissipated into nothing. So it was good to see the XFL ratings were still decently good in week 2, and it had a higher peak in week 2, but a very much lower average, almost a million lower viewers. I personally watched 3 games the whole time through this past weekend of the XFL, and I enjoyed every single second of it. It's a fun league to watch. There's not a lot of scoring, very gritty play, though, which is what I like. I like the old school football style of play, and there's a lot of that in the XFL right now. This is a league that has promised a heavy 3-year contract, so they're at least around for 3 more years, so they have time to improve on this game, get the ratings up a little bit, and prove that they should be renewed for longer.
Yeah, I've seen the highlights of, I think, all the games, and it is really entertaining football to watch. One thing, this isn't my idea, I saw it on Twitter or something, but someone suggested, like, instead of putting these teams in places that already have teams, like, New York, DC, Houston, Tampa Bay, well, like, what if the teams were located in places like West Virginia or Mississippi, or, like, places that don't already have teams?
I want a Little Rock football team.
Yeah, well...
Well, you're talking about that. Why not start internationally as well?
Yeah.
I mean, start in different countries. I mean, the NFL, we talked about it on one of our last podcasts. We talked about the Jaguars possibly moving to London next couple of years.
Yep.
Maybe you can test the waters early for the NFL and seeing if football will be good in another country.
Yeah.
I mean, I could definitely see that.
I mean, like, best case scenario is people that aren't around football a lot, they have an opportunity to experience this anew, and they jump on it right away, and, like, attendance soars.
Well, what the XFL is doing right that the AAF did wrong is you can find these games anywhere. They are super watchable. They have deals with ABC, CBS, NBC, all the big TV networks. I was watching the game on YouTube for free. Not YouTube Premium, not YouTube Red, but free YouTube, live game. These are very accessible games, and this is going to help the XFL moving forward.
The reason that's happening is because they have backing money. The AAF had no backing money whatsoever, and the XFL has all the backing money in the world. I mean, they have a contract for the next 3 years because of that money. They have almost anywhere you can watch because they have the backing money, and the players that they're getting some of them are former really good college players and former NFL players who played for a good couple of seasons and might have had a good season or 2.
Yeah, a lot of big names, and I think it's also their success initially also has something to do with them being associated with Vince McMahon. I mean, I know originally maybe the XFL didn't work out so good, but like, people know that name, and I mean, I think he brings a lot of like notoriety to that organization.
Everyone know he hate me. Everyone's favorite XFL player. Also with the XFL, it seems like over half of these players are either former Redskins or former Ravens. Watching these games, it seems like they're talking about the Ravens, they're talking about the Redskins a lot. Former players, I don't really know what more to say about that. It's just kind of a little funny quirk. But I want to talk a little bit about the XFL rules, what makes the XFL so unique, and why it is a fresh taste of football, and something that I think is enjoyable experience. And the biggest change, perhaps, is the new extra point rules. There are no longer your classic extra point, kick it through the uprights, get a point, go take a bathroom break type of situation anymore. In the XFL, you have 3 options after a touchdown. You can either go for 1 point from the 2-yard line, you can go from 2 points from the 3-yard line, or you can go for it all 3 points from the 10-yard line. So extra points are no longer boring. A 9-point game is no longer a 2-score game. You have a lot of really interesting shakeups here in the league. But that also leaves a question, is this going to hurt kickers a little bit? Because that is a big part of the game, and taking away stuff like the extra point might also hurt their game. But again, it's the extra point. You're a kicker, you're expected to make it.
I mean, this is the XFL we're talking about. I mean, we can relate to the NFL. I don't think the NFL would ever get rid of kickers. But the XFL, for me, is pure entertainment value. And what is more entertaining than first and goal at the 10-yard line for 3 points? this is pretty much a field goal.
Yeah.
To win the game, most likely. You're down by 8 points, and you go down the field, you score a touchdown, and it's a pretty much 3-point play to win the game. I think that's exciting. That's what the XFL is trying to do, and I think they're doing a great job at it.
It's like a game is never over. If a team's down by like 25, in the NFL that'd be a 4-possession game. Like in the XFL, they're taking a whole possession off of that. So I mean, I think that's very interesting.
Also, kickoffs for me have never been more fun. Kicking off, so the kicker gets to kick it off. The entire team is lined up head-to-head, kind of like it's a dodgeball match, 5 yards apart from each other on the opposite side of the field, and nobody can move until the return man has caught the ball. But the thing was with the kickers, this is another thing with kickers, they have to be accurate because the ball must land between the end zone and the 20-yard line, or else it's a super touchback, which comes back to the 35-yard line. So it super hurts field position in that aspect. So the return man is going to want to take that ball and return it. And if it just one right block, small little hole, that's going home for the touchdown because these are one-on-one battles up front right by the return man, which I think it makes it very fun to see these players grit it out up front.
So do you guys think that's an improvement on the safety of like the kickoff in terms of like concussions and stuff?
It's much different from running at each other from 5 yards and running at each other from 20 yards. Being a former football player myself, I hated being on kickoff.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was going to get laid out every single time, get hit in the head, be out of the game. This way, I do think it's a lot safer.
Definitely, yeah.
I really do.
And that's one thing I really also appreciate about it. I know I got at least one concussion from kickoffs and just like 20-yard full speed.
Definitely.
I mean, question, is this something the NFL possibly might look at to implement the next couple of years?
I think the NFL moving forward, depending how well the XFL does, is going to try to drive the XFL out of business because they don't want competition. The NFL has never had competition.
Yeah.
Now they do. But at the same time, they also play in different seasons. So it's a balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, are you ever going to get, like, this is crazy, but would you ever get a player coming out of college saying, I'd rather play for the XFL than the NFL?
Well, I think that really depends on the money. That's probably the biggest factor there.
That's where you got to ask yourself, are you willing to get paid $20 million and sit on the bench or get paid like $5 million and be a starter?
Yeah.
Also, overtime rules. That's the third biggest change of the XFL. Instead of the classic 2 tries, who wins type of game, if you score a touchdown, the game is over. I think the overtime rules in the NFL is perhaps one of the biggest flaws. In the XFL, it consists of 5 rounds, so very similar to the way NHL and Major League Soccer kind of works out. So you have 5 rounds. Each team gets a play. 1 play to score a point. If you score a point, you get 2 points, and then the next team gets to go. Whoever has more points after 5 rounds wins the game. There are no ties. If you're tied after the 5 rounds, then it keeps going until someone wins the round, and then the game is over. So it's a battle to the end, kind of like a penalty kick that you'll see in Major League Soccer and in Premier League and stuff. So overtime is going to be super exciting. 5 yards out, try to get in the end zone, ground and pound it.
I want to meet the people who made these rules. They are super creative.
They are.
I love this. I mean, again, like I said earlier, it's pure entertainment value. And again, what's more entertaining than going back and forth and back and forth? And like, I mean, you're kind of forcing teams to go back and forth because another team still gets a chance.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, like Vince McMahon, what is he? He's with the WWE, which is absolutely pure nothing but entertainment value. And so, I mean, he knows how to do that very well. And I think this new overtime formats, it's like a chess match because that's so dependent on the play call, like who's going to win from the 5-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
One final rule I want to go over just real quick because it's something I find very interesting. The XFL is trying to go for faster gains but the same amount of plays. How are they doing this? They're shortening the play clock. Instead of 40-second play clock like we get in the NFL, you get 25-second play clock here in the XFL. And similar to college, if you get a first down and the play clock stops, you get to move the chains. So that means when you're in the last 2 minutes of the game, you can run the ball and it still be a viable option. If you get the first down, play clock stops, you can get to line of scrimmage, hike it again. Also, out of bounds, if you run the ball out of bounds, it no longer stops the clock. The clock keeps going as well. You also only need 1 foot in bounds, similar to college football as well, to make it an official catch. So a lot of play clock changes there.
I mean, this changes how plays are going to be called. A lot of quarterbacks are going to be calling their own plays.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, we've seen that in the NFL. A lot of quarterbacks are calling their own
It's
plays.
fast-paced.
But, yeah, because the XFL is so fast-paced, I think quarterbacks are going to be forced to be doing this. They're going to have to know their playbook and learn their playbook.
Strength and conditioning coaches need to get raises.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that rule kind of opens up a lot more, like in the 2-minute drill. Like in the NFL, for the 2-minute drill, it's like we either need to score or get out of bounds, or if we get in bounds, we need to run up and spike it. But like in the XFL, I can go anywhere on the field as long as I get a first down, then I'll stop the clock.
We've talked about the rules a little bit and how the XFL is laid out. Let's talk about who's actually in the XFL. We have 2 undefeated teams here at the end of week 2. You have the Houston Roughnecks and the DC Defenders. 2-0. Both teams looking very impressive. Both teams have a lot of promising studs on this team. Do you think these are the 2 teams we're going to see in the championship in late April, or do you think there's going to be another team to arise? Who's actually the best team in the XFL? And
DC Defenders I think they're the best team in this league because they have the most quality as far as players go. If Cardell Jones isn't the MVP of this league, I don't know who will be.
I agree wholeheartedly, but PJ Walker, again with Houston, can't overshadow him.
Houston, they have a really good defense, and then if I had to compare the Roughnecks to an NFL team, it would be the Ravens. They have a really good defense, which they showcased against the St. Louis Battlehawks this past weekend. And then they have PJ Walker, of course, and he's very elusive, he's very fast, he's very shifty in the open field. Kind of reminds me of Lamar Jackson with just the way he plays. But like you guys said, DC, they have a lot of well-known names. Cardell Jones, he's playing well. And then at running back, they got Donnell Pumphrey. The guy from San Diego, I think he was one of the best running backs in college football a couple years back. So a lot of experience, a lot of talent on the DC Defenders.
Which XFL players do you think have the best chance of perhaps getting an NFL deal in the next couple of seasons?
I mean, right now the favorite's probably Cardell Jones. He's already started a couple games, in the NFL, and he's a pocket passer. Looks pretty technical.
He's mobile too.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if he showed up the way he did at Ohio State, he's going to definitely get a contract somewhere. But there's a couple of players that got released from teams. Like you have Eli Rogers, like those kind of guys. I'm just looking at DC Defenders. A lot of those kind of players are going to get looks. But I think the question is, would you rather be a star in the XFL or a third-string quarterback on an NFL team?
And that's what these players are going to have to answer. Every player is different. No one has a straight answer for that. It's all depending on who you are.
This NFL offseason, I mean, we're about to talk about who's going to go where, but this NFL offseason could also be interesting for the XFL and how good the XFL really is. If teams are asking them to come to their team, whether they stay in the XFL or not will show how good the XFL is.
I do want to take a hot take real quick because I have one player that's been very overlooked this season, and in the next couple of weeks, I expect this player to go off and lead the XFL in rushing yards by the end of the season and touchdowns, and that's Dallas Renegades running back Cameron Artis-Payne. Another former NFL running back. This kid is lighting it up. He hasn't gotten that many touches, but when he has gotten the ball, he's been probably the most explosive player in the league. He's getting the touchdowns, getting the yards, is getting his team the points, putting them where they need to be, and this player's going to keep getting the ball more and more and more, and eventually he's going to be the best running back in the XFL. You heard it here first on Beyond the Blitz.
I believe it.
Justin, do you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time for Way Too Early Predictions, my friend. Now, when I say way too early predictions, it's not really way too early. In fact, it's pretty much promptly just right on time type of situations to predict, as we are going to look at 3 categories for free agency this season in the NFL, not the X, but the NFL. We're going to look at which players will not get signed by anybody by the beginning of the season, which players are going to re-sign with the team that they played for last season, and which players are going to sign with a different team by the beginning of next season. We each have 3 players written down. We're going to go around and we're going to discuss. So, Joe, you want to kick us off with who you think will not be signed next season?
Yeah. My favorite for that category is Andrew Whitworth, left tackle for the Rams. He's had a very long, successful career. He's been one of the best well-known names, at the position of left tackle. Obviously, once you get up to late 30s at a position like left tackle, it gets to a point where it's not really viable anymore. But I mean, he's had a great career, but I think he's gonna hang up the boots.
That kind of surprises me. I think he has at least 1 or 2 more years left in him, but if his time is up, depends how much money he's going to ask for.
I mean, this is the year of left tackles that are super old. Like, you have him, and you also have Jason Peters, who's 38, 39.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of left tackles that are deciding, do I want to retire? Do I want to leave my team?
Yeah.
Will my team even want me? So it just all depends on if teams just want to go younger, because in this upcoming draft, there are a lot of good tackles coming up. Yeah. So, again, a lot of teams are going to have to make these decisions.
The Rams still have a really solid team. I could see them signing Whitworth to a 1-year deal and just trying to make one final push before he retires.
I mean, he definitely played at a high level the past season. In the past 2 seasons, so we'll see about that. Now, for who do I think is gonna stay with the team that they're already with? My favorite is Melvin Gordon. I looked him up on Twitter earlier, and he was having a workout this past week with Derwin James, Melvin Ingram, and another Chargers teammate. So, I mean, my thinking there is, like, if he was thinking about leaving, he probably wouldn't be working out with the teammates on the Chargers right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they really like him at running back. He's been a really high performer when he's been healthy.
I mean, if you're the Chargers, you're looking to draft a quarterback. And what better way to have a quarterback come in than have a solid running back in the backfield? So I could definitely see the Chargers re-signing him solely for that purpose.
Yeah, and Phillip Rivers being out of there also opens up a lot of cap space, so I don't think that'll be an issue for them.
Absolutely.
Now, who do I think will get signed with a different team? This one's interesting. There's a lot of very interesting possibilities. I think Shady McCoy, he's kind of bounced around the past few seasons, and I believe he got injured early in the season with the Chiefs this year.
Mm-hmm.
They have Damian Williams, who I think gets the job done, certainly. He can do it all out of the backfield. So I think Shady is going to go somewhere where they're in need of a first and second down rusher. Maybe Chicago, maybe the Lions might pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean he's 32, I believe. He's still got a lot of gas in the tank left. So I mean I think he's a high priority target.
He said he wants to play, and I would love to see him go back to Philly for one last shot. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Shady was a player I was very high on most of the season, and he disappointed me time and time again. Maybe he can make it work somewhere else.
Yeah. Excited to see that.
All right, now we come to my player that won't get signed. I want to go to someone who isn't 38, 39, because there's a lot of players who are not going to get signed because they're up there in age. But I'm going to go a guy who's 31, 32. I'm going to go Bruce Irvin. Pass rusher, I think was with the Raiders a couple years ago. I forget who he was with this past season. But he's been bouncing around a lot of teams. And he's 32 years old, 31. And I just don't think he's going to get the job done. I think he's going to be one of those guys like a Terrell Suggs kind of signing. Week 5, week 6, comes in when a guy gets hurt. Or kind of be that player who comes off the bench, gets still produces 4 or 5 sacks next year for someone who's contending. So I can definitely see him as someone who would come in and definitely be someone who contributes to a team in the middle of the season.
Yeah. He had some solid seasons with the Ravens, or not the Ravens, the Raiders a couple years ago. I think he was with Carolina this past season.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't hear his name a lot, but that might be, their defense in general didn't do very well. But we'll see. I think I agree with you. I think he probably won't get picked up right away, but maybe somewhere down the road.
And as a player who will not return to their team, I'm going to say Yannick Ngakoue. And I know, Brandon, me and you were arguing about this a little bit before we recorded this podcast, but I just don't see Yannick coming back to the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars, we've said this time and time again, it just seems like they're always going through a rebuild, and the Jaguars just sometimes don't know who to sign when. And I just see them as a team who will just let him walk. So I guess the question is, who's going to sign him? And I look at who has the most cap space coming into this offseason. And there's one team that has 90+ million according to Spot Track, and it is the Miami Dolphins. They have a lot of cap space and a lot of draft picks. The Miami Dolphins might make the playoffs next year because of how much.
Careful.
I know. Way too early predictions. This is a way too early prediction right here.
Are they going to win the AFC East, Justin?
No, that's the Bills all the way. Always the Bills. But I could see the Miami Dolphins because when you think about players who leave a team because of money, they usually go to a team that has a lot of cap space. So this isn't just about the Dolphins being a younger team, but they have the most cap space and they're willing to give a lot of money to what I would say is one of the better pass rushers in the NFL, Yannick Ngakoue.
Definitely one of the better pass rushers. But when you were talking about cap space for a second, I thought you were going to go the Kansas City Chiefs route because they're third in cap space and they are the Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
Yes. This team is going to be even more stat next season. And a player like Yannick Ngakoue, but I don't think he's going to leave Jacksonville. Jacksonville would be making a huge mistake if they let this kid walk. But again, we're assuming that Jacksonville is a competent franchise when they have proven over and over again they are not.
If he walked, that would be the fall of Saxonville, sadly. Yeah. No more Saxonville.
And as a player who will stay, I'm going to go someone, this will be a little bit surprising. He's not a well-known player, but a player who's been very productive for his team. I'm going to say Joe Schobert. I think he's going to have to re-sign with the Cleveland Browns because he is the middle of that defense. They do have a lot of pieces around. Olivier Vernon is leaving, so they're going to lose a little bit of cap. because of that. And they'll be able to pay what I would say is one of their best defensive players. He led the team in tackles. He got a couple turnovers for the team. Even though the team didn't do that well, he was the glue of that defense. They're going to have to re-sign him, and I think he will re-sign with the Cleveland Browns.
He's been leading the league in tackles at various points. Maybe he didn't end the season with that title, but I know at various points in his career he's been really high up there.
Yeah. I guess moving on to my picks now, I'm going to start out with will not get re-signed, as you guys have. I got a kind of surprising player right here. This is definitely still one of the better players at his position this season, but he is just going to want way too much money, and no one's going to want to give him this money by the start of the season, and that is legendary defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh. For most of his career, Suh has had disciplinary issues. He's one of the highest paid defensive players in the NFL for a team that is struggling but is also improving. Tampa Bay is probably going to want to flush that out a little bit. They're going to want to improve their cap space. This team is headed in the right direction, and cleaning up this cap space could definitely help Tampa Bay move in the right direction because they are paying this kid way too much money. He's going to get released. No one's going to pick him up until week 4 of next season, where the Los Angeles Rams pick him up, and Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh on the front together in that 4-3 defense.
Has that been a thing already? Weren't they both playing together like a couple years ago?
I don't think so. I also don't think this is gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's a fantasy of mine. Hot take.
Ndamukong Suh is one of the best plugs when it comes to stopping the run game. He is the reason why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had the best rush defense in the NFL.
Definitely.
And so I'm looking at teams here. And, like, if I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will get rid of Ngakoue, I think Jaguars, they're 28th in stopping the run. The Redskins are there, Cincinnati. There's a lot of teams that did not stop the run, and he would be the guy that you would want to get. But I think with Shaq Barrett being there and the Buccaneers are going to they have to give him the money because he was the best pass rusher in the NFL.
Shaq Barrett is a free agent. They got to re-sign him.
Yeah, so I would rather re-sign him than Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah.
Suh's also been going in and out of teams a lot lately, and there's got to be a reason for that. I don't think a team's going to pick him up at the beginning of the season. I could also see him returning to Detroit, though, kind of one last hurrah before he retires back to his hometown. Yeah. We'll see what happens there. As far as a player I think is going to be re-signed, I could go the obvious route. I could talk about Brandon Scherf. Obviously, he's going to stay. Derrick Henry, they'd be stupid to let him walk. But a player I want to talk about, and not getting as much buzz as he probably should, he is one of the best tight ends in football, and that's Falcons tight end Austin Hooper. He's a free agent this year. They've already let players like Vic Beasley walk. Atlanta doesn't have that much cap space, but Austin Hooper is definitely one of the biggest playmakers in the NFL right now at the tight end position. When healthy, this kid was the number 1 tight end until he got injured. Don't forget that. He has a 92 overall rating in Madden. Also, don't forget that.
He was one of the best tight ends in fantasy football. He was the one that you wanted to pick up. But also, you talk about the Falcons. They're saying they might release Devontae Freeman. Could that be a hint that they want to give a lot of that money to Austin Hooper?
Freeman is getting overpaid ridiculous amounts of money for nothing. Atlanta needs to release Freeman to make that money for Hooper. If Atlanta lets Hooper go, this team will not see the playoffs for 5 seasons. Hooper is the backbone of that offense, and if he leaves, Atlanta leaves.
Yeah. You need someone to distract from Julio Jones because if he leaves, you can double and triple team Julio.
I wanted to stick with Atlanta, but I want to move on to a different team. I wanted to talk about my Chris Harris going to Atlanta prediction because Atlanta loves their veteran defensive backs out of free agency, but I don't think they're going to go that route. There is another player out there who is going to bring in even more buzz. Cincinnati Bengals tight end Tyler Eifert is a free agent this year. They have Azuma who stepped up last season and proved that he could be a number 1 tight end. Cincinnati is going to be making a lot of changes. They are in the rebuild mode, and most teams in rebuilding mode gets rid of some of their best players. They have to re-sign A.J. Green. A.J. Green has to be the priority, and Tyler Eifert is going to be the casualty. Tyler Eifert is going to leave Cincinnati, and he is going to go to the Tennessee Titans to join up with Delanie Walker. Delanie Walker has been battling injuries on and off for a while, hasn't seemed to feel it very much, and Jimmy Smith, who's their starting tight end now, isn't that impressive. This is a team that made it to the conference championship game, and a player like Tyler Eifert can make the difference between them losing that game and winning this game.
I mean, it all depends how much money he wants, because if you're the Titans, you have to re-sign Derrick Henry, which is going to be a lot of money for the 2020
have
season.
to.
They need to.
And
Absolutely
Ryan
have to.
Tannehill. One of those two players they're going to do the franchise tag for. And that's a lot of money. That's the highest paid player at the position for that year. That's what the franchise tag is. I don't think they'll have enough money to sign Tyler Eifert.
So are we sure that Marcus Mariota's out of there?
Yeah, he's out.
Definitely.
I honestly don't know if I would franchise tag Ryan Tannehill if I were them. I mean, you look at their 3 playoff games. He was efficient, but in all 3 of them, I think he threw for less than 100 yards.
Yeah.
I could definitely see Ryan Tannehill being the type of player to take a huge pay cut. He knows that not many teams want to take a chance on a player that had half a good season after not playing for a while.
Right.
Tannehill is on a good team. I think he likes exactly where he is. He earned that starting job.
Yeah.
He's going to take a pay cut so this team can sign players like Tyler Eifert to give him more offensive weapons so he can prove his own personal legacy that he is a quality starter.
But you also got to look, Tyler Eifert has had an injury history as well. So I feel like he'll also maybe take a pay cut because of that as well.
Yep, I can definitely see that. Derrick Henry, on the other hand, I think he's going to demand
no.
the big butts.
I would.
And if they let Derrick Henry walk, just same thing I said about Austin Hooper in Atlanta, Tennessee walks.
No,
they walk right out of the playoffs.
By the end of this offseason, Derrick Henry is going to be the highest paid running back in the NFL.
Absolutely.
He should be. He
should be.
definitely deserved it. He carried his team to the conference championship game single-handedly.
Literally.
Monster. Well, that's about all the time we have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. We covered all our segments today. I hope you enjoyed our show. If you have not already, please go check out our Twitter page. That is beyond_blitz. We post content every single day, as well as teasers for our upcoming episodes and announcements. Thank you very much for listening. Blitz Crew, as always, Brandon Wells, Justin Rogers, special guest today, Joe Caron. Thank you very much for coming out. And tune in next Friday for a brand new episode. And stay purple. This is Beyond the Blitz.